we're doing.
Okay, so I'm Darius Kulikauskas. I'm the CEO of an electronic money institution, Pervesk, licensed here in Lithuania, and we've been in the business since 2017. I've been part of the company since 2018, so for the better part of its journey. And yeah, I've seen it grow from from a team of 3 people to a crew of over 100 people. My previous background was with Bank of Lithuania, so I worked with in the structure of the supervisor, but my functions were not related to the supervision of financial market participants. I was an economist there.
Thank you for the introduction. So, imagine a situation right now that I would like to build a neobank, and you are advising me, right? For example, giving me a quick rundown on what should I do. What are the key pillars that I should consider when I'm building a neobank?
So for me, I think the most important question is, why do you want to build a neobank? Because like other pillars, as you've described them, I don't think that they matter if you can't answer to this question with a valid answer. And when I mean valid answer, you have to see a market or a demand for what you're trying to build, and not just have an ambition to build it just for the sake of it. In my experience, I've seen quite a lot of people, especially those looking for banking as a service, because we offer this, and supposedly this should be a simpler entry into the market, right? So I've seen quite a few people trying to go this route without clear understanding why they are doing this. I've seen quite a few people that wanted, just to do it because it seemed possible and accessible. There was a point in time around, 2018, 2019, especially here in Lithuania, where licensing was, let's say, a bit easier on the applicant than it is today. And this created sort of this expectation that, it's something that you can easily get. Whereas in reality, and especially these days, this is a licensed activity. So meaning that the state is controlling who can get into this business. And like with all licensed activities, like we even can compare it with selling alcohol. It's never going to be possible to do that just based on the whim. Just based on your desire to build a bank. So for me, that's the main the main criteria. Why you want to do that.
Probably the biggest challenge, right? How to find the why, or how to find the problem.
So I think if you are intentionally, just sitting in your desk and thinking like 24/7, why should I build a neobank, or just a bank for that matter, I think that's not the right approach to anything. Not just to banking, not just to finance, not to anything. If you're going just to do that, chances are very slim that you're going to come up with something. Usually these things come from everyday life. So I just wanted to share our example, because in our group of companies, we started off actually as a cryptocurrency exchange, SpectroCoin, and for us, setting up an EMI, electronic money institution, was just the means of solving a problem that we had. We were having difficulties in finding reliable payment service providers that would be willing to work with the cryptocurrency exchanges. And I'm talking about, 2017, 2016. Maybe 2017, is not the best example because BTC was becoming a thing that was making deadlines, headlines, sorry, not deadlines by then. But especially earlier, and even in 2017, financial institutions, conventional financial institutions, they lacked understanding of how blockchain works, how cryptocurrencies work. And this was the main reason why they were reluctant to open up for cryptocurrency service providers. So you had to rely on electronic money institutions, neobanks, and anything that's, slightly bit more modern than, like the classical financial world. But all these companies with appetite to risk, they usually were very bad at managing those risks that came with huge risk appetites. So they either lost licenses. So, for example, Intergiro is a very recent example. They got their license revoked just recently, and we are in 2025 right now. Right, so meaning that there's quite a history if we compare ourselves to what was available and what was known in 2017 and these days. So we were having these difficulties that reliable service providers were difficult to find. They were expensive. So of course, if we found someone willing to work with cryptocurrencies, we were forced to pay quite a lot for that, and because SpectraCoin was a retail business, it catered to for consumers. It impacted the bottom line. So it was natural step for us, to venture into traditional finance, apply for a license. So we did, and at first we did not think about building something for others. As I said, it was just means for solving the problem for ourselves. But once we did solve it for ourselves, it's just the entrepreneurial spirit. If you solve it for yourself, there's a high chance that there are people with similar problems out there, and you can apply the same formula, the same solution, and offer it to them. And our initial thoughts were to offer banking solutions for other crypto service providers or consumers heavily associated with cryptocurrency industry, because we knew that they were facing problems as well. For example, conventional banks, they were refusing to accept withdrawals from cryptocurrency exchanges, or they were not permitting deposits to those services. And Pervesk or Bankera, for that matter, as an intermediary solution for them, not just like a main payment account that you use every day, but like an intermediary stop for them was a problem solver. And of course, once you have that set up, you build from there. You expand the functionality. You look into your customer base and see what they are looking for. So they were looking for payment instruments, being payment cards. These days it's Apple or Google Pay. So then you naturally look for ways to add that and build on that. So for me, it seems that you have to have if you're talking about neobank, so you either go the retail way, so like Revolut did. In those cases, you need to raise a lot of capital because you're competing with the big guys from the day one. In other cases, if you have to have experience working in some niche that is struggling with payments services, and use that understanding about those struggles and that knowledge that you have from other areas to build something very specialized, catering after that. And once you have that done, you can expand to other areas. So, for example, just use us again, as an example, we started off focusing mainly on cryptocurrencies, but these days this is by a long stretch not even close to being our dominant part in our customer portfolio. Of course, it's still high risk, mostly iGaming, IT services, that are still a bit more high risk than, let's say, just your vanilla development companies and so on and so on. But having a focus and a niche where we were immediately with some knowledge allowed us to reach this point.
That's actually a really good point that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but if you solve a problem for yourself, there will be probably others who have the same problem. So that's a very good point. And when you were thinking whether to build it yourself or use Intergiro or any other provider that could solve the problem for you, why eventually you decided to build Pervesk and the Bankera, where instead of buying licenses or building yourself?
Timing, we cannot discuss this without mentioning timing. We got lucky on timing, we have to admit that. At the time when we were deliberating what to do with this and how to approach this problem that we had, licensing environment here in Lithuania was very favorable. It became very favorable. There was this huge public sector push to issue more licenses to attract businesses. It was aimed mostly at businesses from outside of Lithuania, just to get foreign direct investment and let's say knowledge inflow from elsewhere, because back at the day Lithuania did not have this talent pool or anyone that knew a lot about fintech and payments and how they work. We were Lithuanians, so we were a little bit different from that regard, but nevertheless, licensing in terms of licensing, we were treated as equal to others, and we benefited from that let's say favorable regime. So for us, the answer was very hugely influenced by the environment that was prevalent at the time, and at the time, as I already mentioned, it was very favorable to go for a license yourself. The capital requirements were not that huge, it was not as huge as for a bank, where you had to have at the very, very minimum 5 million euros in cash, but then on top of that, you had to have proof that you can accrue in the region of 12 or so million for small scale bank. So whereas for an EMI or a payment institution, we were talking about hundreds of thousands, but not millions. So since we had an operational and successful cryptocurrency exchange and cryptocurrencies were booming at the time, we had spare cash to invest into this and support it without raising capital. So that was why we did it our way. If we were in a similar position today, it would be very hard to imagine a station where we go after licensing from scratch. Just because the cryptocurrency market is much more saturated and competitive from crypto service providers' perspective. There's way more venues where you can exchange crypto, where you can trade it. So the margins got thinner, much thinner, if you compare the situation to what was 10 years ago. So naturally, the resources for investing into that would not be as abundant. And another thing, the environment for licensing changed quite a lot.
Hmm.
So whereas 10 years ago, you knew that licensing will take somewhere from 3 to 9 months. Very seldom it dragged on for more than 9 months, like and even in those cases, we're talking about a year or so. These days, a year or so is just the minimum that you can expect. It would be considered very fast if you manage to get and obtain a license in a year. Actually, as I've mentioned, we offer banking as a service for our customers, and depending on the model, for some setups, we do need regulatory approval, authorization as such, because these entities that are after these models, they become our agents. So they become our authorized agents, and sometimes obtaining this authorization takes close to a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is when we have the experience with talking with a supervisor and from someone who has already approved quite a few applications. But if you are, just doing that the first time, it's going to be definitely more than a year. So these days, I would probably lean towards becoming an agent or an operator of someone else's infrastructure. So let's say upon banking as a service and see if that is successful. If it is successful, of course, then start working on licensing, and it's much easier to prove that your business model is sustainable to the supervisor when you have something running already. Yeah.
It makes sense. You touched upon a really interesting topic. So, for two things that I would like to discuss, one is the go-to-market timing, right? In terms of how long it takes from, let's say, okay, I've got this idea, I'm starting negotiating with solution providers, BaaS, or maybe banking lab, and I would like to start acquiring my license or apply for a license. How much time it would take me to get first client, from 0 to 1, and also how much it would cost. You said that now it was 1 year, now it's probably 2 years, right? And longer.
Something like that, but it can be longer. We've seen cases where rather large groups of companies, where that they have some side business running where they are definitely resource rich. So, for example, Winter, I think their licensing took close to 2 years or so. So even with their resources, they can spend a lot on legal teams, people to basically work with their licensing application and nothing else for that time. It took so much time. So
time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go. Probably 1 year, probably 2 years. That's interesting because you need to take it also in consideration. So you are feeding a team of, I don't know, 5 to 10 people who are maybe developing the MVP whilst you are still applying for the license, and maybe it will take longer. Yeah. So you need to have a runway for 2 years. So that's probably a lot of money, having engineers and all that stuff. What would be your guess on, or maybe not guess, that's not a guess in your case, plus minus, if you should give me, like a plus minus, how much it would cost me to, build my own EMI?
So, not an easy answer, because there's a lot of do I account only for upkeep of stuff, or do I also include, like I don't know, software, monthly payments and everything, because sometimes these kick in before you are even able to onboard customers, because you have to have systems ready and running, tested already, and so. But you can still be in a situation where you're waiting for the supervisor to approve your license. But I would say, like, if you find yourself in the position, that you just came up with an idea and you have a solid answer to why you should build a neobank, you're just in that situation. You have not done any homework. You're just sure that your idea is going to fly. From that moment, I think you should be able to, at least 2 million. You should have at least 2 million available for the period of 2 years, because this business is not going to bring in revenue for that time, while you will have to have at least some legal people, someone as a CEO of company. You will have to have agreements for board members, and so on and so on.
Yep.
And of course, software arrangements. For example, like Banking Lab, it is impossible to apply successfully for a license just based on a plan that you plan to use software from Banking Lab, because Bank of Lithuania, at least if you're talking locally about the station here in Lithuania, they would expect you to have this contract signed, with all the required backup solutions, for contingencies, and so on and so on.
Interesting. What I'm learning so far is a really interesting new thing to me, that right now it doesn't seems like actually the best time for a new neobank to be created, but actually for somebody who is already have a running business model, have a target audience, and have the backup money, right? And doesn't care about, okay, I need to raise in next 2 years another round, and fit. Interesting. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, my understanding would be that it is such a situation these days, and it's been like for a while now like this.
Yeah. And we discussed that banking lab versus Bankera, banking as a service versus having outsourcing the core. And also I discussed with people if it makes sense to build your own tech stack, and it seems like there are natural steps. Yes, as you said, you want to validate the idea with banking as a service, right? Once you get the revenue, everything is going well, then you want to build your own, then you want to buy the tech stack and acquire license, and then once everything is going great, then you want to bring in-house the most costly solutions. Do you agree with the strategy, or do you think it should there's some other way how to do this?
So probably the only other way is to somehow raise money and have it, but that's not really a strategy. So yeah, that's probably the only way. I would also add that it's still not as clear cut as it sounds, because if you are using someone else's license, piggybacking on someone else's back, basically you are just an agent operator of someone else, so basically a customer of banking as a service. You will not have 100% control of your risk appetite, your processes, procedures. In a lot of cases, those willing to lend out in such a way their licenses will not be willing to outsource AML, customer onboarding, transaction monitoring to you. You're going to rely on them. You're going to pay for that, of course, because these things cost. And you might not be able to implement your vision because relying on AML processes might might be the reason why you were struggling, in the first place, and looking to build your own neobank.
This is what happened to one of the person that I was interviewing. It's a company called Ribbon. They were working with two banking as a service provider. One was closed down, and then the other one they didn't accept actually Ribbon, so they had to go and apply for EMI license. So they were 1.5 years building the solution on somebody else technology, and then eventually they had to eventually apply for their own. If I should ask you, so right now I have understanding of why and what I'm solving, who I'm selling something to, on which technology, which business model I'm looking for. Or actually, this is the thing, right? So now I have the technology, I have everything set up, I've got the money ready, but I want to start making a revenue, right? So how to monetize this? Banking as a service or EMI, or maybe different way how to get money.
So if we are talking about retail market consumers, there's two ways to approach this. Either you go after mass market and try to achieve economies of scale. So for this, this is like we are probably all spectators from outside. What Revolut is doing, but this is basically their path. And mass market, everyone expects payment services to be free, payment cards to be free, no monthly fees, no nothing. Everything is free, and only like as a premium service, something can be monetized on top of that. So in those cases, you are going to earn from investing customer funds and from other associated services, like cross-border transactions and foreign exchange, some of these associated services that are still not expected to be free of charge.
Yeah.
Other way is go after high-risk market, and there are quite a lot of industries, niches, sectors, segments where banking solutions are not let's say the markets are not saturated with banking solutions, and even if you find a niche that is heavily relying on only a single service provider, even being a newcomer can be attractive to some of those people that rely on that dominant player just because they need alternatives, they need redundancies.
Yeah.
So there's that way, but of course, these are the people that are in the habit of paying for services. They sometimes pay quite a lot, and that's how you bring in revenue. You go after those that are willing to pay for these services.
Yeah.
But yet again, it's not without a reason that this is not a free of charge service. It really, working with high risk, it really costs resources and time and everything on service provider side.
Interesting, because that's as you are saying, banking and fintech are regulated. There are people breathing at your neck, checking you all the time if you are not doing anything illegal. And then right now the stablecoin crypto blockchain is rising up again, and so probably there will be a lot of new companies rising, and they will look for new technologies and needs, and also for banking. So that could be a new niche, but that comes with the cost, because you need to do probably all the AML checks and everything to make sure that the companies are legit and not do anything shady. Okay.
Yeah, so my just guesstimate would be like 80% of market is conventional, and that 80% is more than enough for the all-timers in the market to to compete, to grow, and there's really little incentive to go after the remaining 20% because the investment required to do that in a very compliant manner is disproportionate.
Yeah.
For someone who has been working with these markets, it's it's a little bit different story because you already have understanding how the market that you're after works and so on and so on. But for example, if I don't know, SEB, let's say SEB, one of the Swedish banks, immediately decided that they are going to go after internet casinos, online casinos.
Yeah.
They would have to somehow create this bank of institutional knowledge on how the online gambling works, which jurisdictions are trusted, where licenses are required to be obtained locally, how the advertising works, what's the casinos relationship with the affiliate networks, and so on and so on. So for conventional bank, it seems like, why would you go after that where you can, just improve your, let's say, IT stack and make your already available services easier to use, just increase the use of them. Let's say by decreasing your cost, you can retain more, let's say, interest income and so on and so on. So they have easier ways to increase or ignite their growth.
Okay, interesting. Right now I'm thinking, I was thinking about also, if I'm not mistaken, you're working with Banking Lab, right?
We're customers of Banking Lab.
And if this is always something that when I have meetings with companies, for example, right now I've got I'm talking to one company that they have hundreds of probably thousands of B2B customers, right? They have two verticals, actually, students and B2B, and they want to merge it right together. And the person is asking me, hey, I love your solution, you've got all in one, this is what I like, but it's going to be more expensive, and I don't know which one to choose, whether the banking as a service route or going with Banking Lab, right? So what would you advise this person to do to make the decision eventually?
If the person has this vision of running a complete bank and thus see the scale of these things actually playing out, I would say, going with a Banking Lab directly and building and tweaking their own system directly is a better solution. But if it's a niche product, let's say, just from examples that we already have, let's say a cryptocurrency exchange that wants to provide VIP service to certain customers that they have, let's say 10 corporates, 10 of their biggest customers, and they want to provide a payment solution, conventional payment solution, which is branded to that cryptocurrencies exchange brand. So in that case, even if that cryptocurrency exchange has the resources to go for a license themselves, it might probably make sense to just rely on someone else's license and do banking as a service.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, because then I want to send him, these feedback so they can make a decision eventually. I think this is also the institution players. I think they are struggling with the same idea, right? Okay, so there are smart people, successful, some business owners or people in higher positions, and they know, okay, it's going to cost us money, but we can do with what? Right. Hey, Darius, this was really helpful for me. Thank you very much. I have learned myself new things, new perspectives. So it was really nice to help you. Thank you very much. Any final remarks? Something that we haven't discussed, or you think it shouldn't be left out?
So I think we have to realize that this is going to I'm going to contradict myself in the same sentence, but fintech market is at the same time very saturated and very undersaturated.
Yeah.
Because it's not, when we talk about fintech companies, it covers lots of things. So payments for retail customers, I would say it's oversaturated, from customers' perspective, from someone who's going to use your services. Why would you go after something and trust that something with your money? Finance is essentially about trust. When you have already trusted players in the market, even let's say Revolut, where that they've been around for, I don't know, almost 10 years, so maybe they can be trusted, and it already works. So it's the habit formation in this is very sticky. So this market is oversaturated. So I'm always very skeptical of someone who's like after retail market and planning millions of customers, because that takes a lot of time, a lot of resources to build. But it is very unsaturated in certain niches. So, for example, we know that there's a lot of demand from customers from adult industry, like even content creators, such as from OnlyFans platforms. Yeah. They find it very difficult to bank, and it's not even within our risk appetite, because taking over a completely different and new industry, even for us, when I consider us not a startup anymore, we are more or less established already. I would say it would take around a year, to absorb a bit and have internal processes and procedures and staff trained to work with it.
Interesting. No, that's the thing, right? And I totally actually understand your what you mean. Or it's oversaturated, but undersaturated in some parts for sure. Still definitely a lot of growth potential for growth and innovation, and expansion to new territories, new verticals, etc. Darius, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this. Really helpful.